Here are the top stories for today, January 27, 2022. Recovery in full blast. The country's economy expands by 7.7% in the fourth quarter of 2021, even as it continues to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Vaccination intensified. The Philippines gets its latest shipment of over 1 million Pfizer COVID-19 jabs as it doubles down on ramping up inoculation both for the unvaccinated and those who have yet to get booster doses. The election fever heats up as the Commission on Elections will conduct presidential and vice presidential debates starting February. And drop your arms first. A group wants the communist rebels to be disarmed first as condition for the resumption of peace talks. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Philippine economy grew in 2021. National statistician Undersecretary Dennis Mapa reported today that the country's gross domestic product, or GDP, posted a growth rate of 7.7% year-on-year for the fourth quarter of 2021. Mapa noted that it is a big rebound from the negative 8.3% registered in the last quarter of 2020. On an annual basis, Mapa said that the GDP grew by 5.6% from a decline of 9.6% in 2020.
Agriculture, forestry, and fishing posted a contraction of negative 0.3% in 2021.
Meanwhile, Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Karl Chua said that the numbers of 2021 show an economy primed to break out. Chua noted that the government strategy in 2021 has resulted in a full-year growth that exceeded targets and expectations.
The door to our economic recovery is now fully open. This growth performance was much faster than most analysts' forecasts, making the country's expansion among the highest in the region. This sends a strong signal that we are on track to rapid recovery despite the impact of Typhoon Odette. The robust fourth quarter expansion brings full year 2021 GDP growth to 5.6%. This exceeds the Development Budget Coordination Committee's target of 5 to 5.5%. This sustained growth was driven by the successful management of risks, such as targeting the areas with highest risk and allowing the rest of the economy to open. Our policies to move from a pandemic to a more endemic paradigm have led to broad-based expansions across almost all sectors. Despite challenges brought about by the continued persistence of COVID-19, various levels of quarantines, and prevalence of natural disasters.
Over 1 million doses of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccines arrived in the country last night. Assistant Secretary Wilben welcomes the arrival of the jabs. He says a portion of the vaccines would be used for the vaccination program being implemented by drugstores. The 1,023,750 doses of COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer were procured by the government through the World Bank. The Philippines has so far received 216.5 million doses of different COVID-19 vaccines, both procured and donated from various pharmaceutical companies, with 124,510,385 doses already administered nationwide. Mayor urges unvaccinated Filipinos to avail of COVID-19 jabs to get enough protection against the dreaded disease. He says vaccination is the key to the exit of the COVID-19 pandemic. Restrictions on movement of unvaccinated individuals in the National Capital Region will be lifted once alert level classification is lowered to alert level 2. This was clarified by Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Karl following the early announcement of the Department of Transportation that unvaccinated and partially vaccinated individuals have until February 25 to avail of the life-saving jabs, otherwise they will be barred from public transportation. Nograles says the policy is primarily hinged on protecting the unvaccinated persons and that the DOTR is implementing it based on the ordinances of Metro Manila LGUs. He also noted that 80% of the hospitalized COVID-19 patients are unvaccinated and more than 90% of them experience severe and critical symptoms. Meanwhile, the Department of the Interior and local government said no vax, no ride policy is a valid exercise of the state's police power. In a virtual briefing, DILG spokesperson Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said this power was upheld by the Supreme Court in the case of Gerochi versus Department of Energy, promulgated in 2007, saying the state has the police power to promote public welfare by restraining and regulating the use of liberty and property. Malaya also said the Department of Justice, or DOJ, issued a legal opinion saying the policy does not violate the COVID-19 Vaccination Act of 2021 and that the policy is in accordance with the ordinances enacted by local government units as ordered by President Rodrigo Duterte. The Department of Health noted a sustained increase in COVID-19 cases in the Visayas and in Mindanao. In an advisory, the DOH says COVID-19 infections in the Visayas rose by 87.35%, while those in Mindanao increased by 164.72% from the previous week. The DOH said bed utilization and ICU utilization rate in Western Visayas, Central Visayas, and Davao region are both under the moderate risk level. Meantime, Cebu City is classified at high risk for COVID-19. Based on the Octa Research Group data, the city's 7-day average of new cases increased to 722 from January 19 to 25 from last week's 325. Its current average daily attack rate is 69%, while its 7-day positivity rate is 40%. Meanwhile, the region's reproduction number is down to 2.99 from last week's 4.64. The healthcare utilization rate is now moderate at 68%, while the ICU utilization rate is also low at 42%. 22 areas outside Metro Manila are under close monitoring following the increasing numbers in COVID-19 cases. These are Calabarzon, Central Luzon, Ilocos Region, Dagupan City, Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR, Baguio City, Cebu Province, Cebu City, Lapu-Lapu City, Mandaue City, Iloilo Province, Iloilo City, Bacolod City, Cagayan de Oro City, Davao City, General Santos City, Ormoc City, Naga City, Western Samar, Tacloban City, Biliran, Zamboanga del Sur. Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Karl says authorities are already in close coordination with the Regional Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. He said the government is already working to further increase the hospital bed capacities in the area and has beefed up telemedicine services for those who will go into home isolation. Nograles also reiterated President Rodrigo Duterte's concerns on the vaccine hesitancy among Muslim communities in Mindanao. Nograles urges local leaders to maximize their convincing power to increase the confidence of the public in the COVID-19 vaccination program. Nograles also mentioned that COVID-19 vaccines are halal certified and are widely used in other predominantly Muslim countries. The RITM says the use of self-administered COVID-19 test kits does not require healthcare workers to perform nasopharyngeal or oropharyngeal swab collection. In a televised Laging Handa public briefing, RITM Laboratory Chief Armando Tandok said the test kits will require nasal and saliva samples.
Base po dun sa mga nakleto nating technical review, dahil nga po ang mga self-test kit ay disenyo para sa paggamit ng isang layperson, mas madali po yung paggamit sa kanya. Una, hindi ito nangangailangan ng isang healthcare worker na magsasagawa ng nasopharyngeal o oropharyngeal na swab collection, sapagkat yung samples po na ite-test ay mga nasal na samples. Kapag po nasal, galing lamang po ito sa harapan o kaya hanggang gitnang bahagi ng ilong na maaaring kunin sa sarili, o kung sa may kapansanan o sa mga bata ay maaaring kunin ng isang nakakatanda. May ibang test kit naman po na saliva ang sample na gagamitin. So sa pagsagawa naman po ng test mismo, may mga instruction naman na susundin kung paanong ilagay yung sample sa cartridge at kung gaano katagal yung hihintayin bago magkaroon ng resulta. Kahalaga po na na pagkagamit po ng test kit, basa po na maigi, saka intindihin at masunod ng maayos yung mga instructions.
Meanwhile, our ITM Virology Department head Mayan Lumanda said the 7 subnational laboratories have been established nationwide to test vaccine-preventable diseases such as measles, rubella, Japanese encephalitis, and rotavirus. She said laboratories with such capacity are important as they allow the government to respond to outbreaks and provide pertinent data for the National Immunization Program and campaigns about vaccine-preventable diseases.
Mga subnational laboratories po ay ang mga sumusunod po. So meron po tayo sa Norte, sa Ilocos Training and Regional Medical Center, sa Biling Memorial Regional Hospital, tapos sa Visayas naman po, Vicente Soto Memorial Medical Center, Western Visayas Medical Center, tapos sa Mindanao po, Southern Philippines Medical Center, Zamboanga City Medical Center at Cotabato Regional and Medical Center. So nakaplano po itong magmula, yung mga testing po nila, mga Hulyo po ng taon na ito.
About 94% of children vaccinated with COVID-19 jabs exhibited mild adverse reactions. The younger age group, aged 12 to 17 years old, were given the life-saving jab since November last year. The top 3 reactions to immunization recorded for this age group are vaccination site pain, headache, and dizziness. Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines Chief Mary Ann Bunyi says it only shows that the vaccines used are effective and safe for children. To date, 58% of the target population for the 12 to 17 years old age group have been vaccinated against COVID-19. The government aims to inoculate 80% of 12.7 million children belonging to this age group. The House of Representatives approved on second reading a measure granting mandatory continuing benefits to the public, private, and barangay health workers during the COVID-19 pandemic and other future public health emergencies. The Chamber passed through voice voting House Bill 10701, which aims to promote the welfare of health workers by providing mandatory benefits with utmost efficiency, especially during a national public health emergency. Under the said measure, all health workers shall receive a special risk allowance for every month of service during the state of a public health emergency. The amount shall be based on the risk exposure categorization. Those deployed in low-risk areas shall receive at least 3,000 pesos. Those deployed in medium-risk areas shall be given at least 6,000 pesos, while those deployed in high-risk areas shall be given at least 9,000 pesos. The bill also provides compensation for covered health workers. 1 million pesos in case of death, 100,000 for severe or critical cases, and 15,000 for mild or moderate cases. Full PhilHealth coverage shall be granted for those who are admitted to a hospital. Mandatory testing every 15 days or as often as necessary shall also be fully covered by PhilHealth. Still ahead, the poll body will host presidential and vice presidential debates starting February. And the proposal for mandatory military service gets a backing from a major AFP command. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Kung customer ka, pupuntahan mo ba yung mukhang safe naman o yung certified na safe? Ang safety seal ay patunay na certified safe ang iyong business dahil nasusunod ang minimum public health standards. Meron din itong QR code para mapadali ang contact tracing. Ito ay libre lang. Pero, kailangang i-renew every 6 months or every year kung nasa tourism sector ang iyong business. Kung meron ka ng mga documents na ito, pwede ka na mag-apply para sa Safety Seal Certification. May iba-ibang office para sa iba't ibang klase ng mga negosyo. Pag na-determine nyo na ang issuing authority, simple lang ang steps para makuha ang safety seal. pumunta sa office ng issuing authority o sa kanilang website. Kumuha ng safety seal checklist at magsagawa ng self-assessment para sa iyong business. I-submit ang checklist at abangan ang inspection schedule. Pag na-approve ang application, bibigyan kayo ng safety seal sticker. Pag hindi naman na-approve, sasabihin kung anong health standard ang hindi nasunod at bibigyan kayo ng pagkakataong ayusin ito. Pag nakuha na ang safety seal, ipaskil ito sa may entrance para makita agad ng mga customer. Pwede nyo rin ipagmalaki na certified safe kayo sa inyong mga social media pages. Paalala lamang, ang isang safety seal ay para sa isang branch lang. Siguraduhin bawat branch mo ay certified safe. Siguraduhin din na nasusunod palagi ang minimum public health standards dahil baka mabawi ang iyong certification. Maaring mag-operate kahit na walang safety seal. Pero hindi ba mas mahalagang kampante ang mga customer sa loob ng iyong negosyo? Kaya kumuha na ng safety seal para ingat-angat tayong lahat.
The Commission on Elections urged all presidential and vice presidential candidates to participate in the debates it will host starting next month. The Comelec will conduct 3 presidential and vice presidential debates throughout the campaign period until the month of April. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez said all members of the media will be invited to broadcast the debates. For candidates who will not attend the discussions, the podium assigned to them will be vacant. Jimenez said the poll body is planning to hold the debates in Luzon, Visayas, and in Mindanao. On the other hand, a raffle will be held on January 28 to determine the e-rally slots for national candidates. Jimenez added that e-rallies will be held 3 hours per night, where each candidate will have a slot. The live streaming of e-rallies will begin on February 8, the start of the 90-day campaign period for national candidates. The Eastern Mindanao Command, or EastMINCOM, on Wednesday expressed full support for the proposal to make military service among 18-year-old Filipino youth mandatory. EastMINCOM Commander Lieutenant General Greg Almerol highlighted the importance of the youth in the peace development and stability of the country. He pointed out that aside from modernized assets, the country needs more forces not only in times of conflict but also during natural disasters. He said the proposal will instill discipline and develop leadership among the youth, which are necessary to be acquired by the country's next leaders. Above all, he said, mandatory military service will create a generation of law-abiding and patriotic citizens. Should she win as vice president in the 2022 polls, Mayor Sara Duterte said she would ask Congress to pass a measure imposing mandatory military service for all 18-year-old citizens. Health workers in Kidapawan City are going house to house to vaccinate persons with disabilities and senior citizens against COVID-19. More on this and other news from the provinces from Marita Mawahe.
The Kidapawan City government launched on Wednesday the Vax to the Max house-to-house campaign to further bolster the city's COVID-19 vaccination rollout. The drive particularly focuses on persons with disabilities and senior citizens who have trouble going to vaccination hubs. Health personnel from the local interagency task force will lead teams together with health workers and peacekeepers in going around the city's 40 villages. The city currently has over 104,000 fully vaccinated residents, or 94.1% of the 110,000 target population. In Baguio City, the National Task Force Against COVID-19 on Wednesday led the rollout of the pharmacy and drive-through vaccination service of the city government to make the jobs more accessible to the public. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III urged the public to avail of these services under the Res Bakuna sa Butika program to be protected against severe COVID-19 infection. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat meanwhile said the booster shot services will not only cater to residents of Baguio but also from nearby areas as well as tourists and travelers. In Pampanga, the city government of San Fernando has established COVID-19 vaccination sites in some barangays for easy access of the residents and to decongest the city's major inoculation sites. The village vaccination drive of the City Health Office was placed in covered courts, barangay health centers, and other public areas. The barangay-based vaccination will be open until January 28. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Marita Muaje.
The Department of Transportation, or DOTR, has begun the inspection of trains for the Philippine National Railways Clark Phase 1 project on Wednesday. Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade led the inspection of the trains purchased from the Japan Transport Engineering Company and Sumitomo Corporation as part of the North-South Commuter Railway System, or NSCR. He said 58 train sets are expected to operate in the entire NSCR from Clark to Calamba, Laguna. Tugade said construction of the PNR Clark Phase 1 from Tutuban to Malolos and Phase 2 from Malolos to Clark are now in full swing. Also, the delivery of 8-car train sets, or a total of 464 train cars, has started since November 2021. To date, the PNR Clark 1 is 53.8% complete. The PNR Clark 2 is at 34.4% and PNR Calamba at 28.6%. The National Telecommunications Commission has authorized 2 companies to use channels previously used by broadcast giant ABS-CBN to operate on digital television in Mega Manila. The NTC said it granted a provisional authority to Aliw Broadcasting Corporation to install, operate, and maintain a digital TV broadcasting system using Channel 23. Aliw was the second applicant to install, operate, and maintain a digital TV in Metro Manila since 2007. The NTC also granted the Suarasug Media Corporation the legal operating name of Sunshine Media Network International of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy a provisional authority to install, operate, and maintain digital TV Channel 43. For his part, Cabinet Secretary Karl said the decision to grant provisional authorities was up to the NTC based on their rules, regulations, and existing laws. On Tuesday, the NTC granted a PA to the Villar-led Advanced Media Broadcasting System to install, operate, and maintain digital TV Channel 16 and temporary simulcast on analog TV Channel 2. Up next, a group wants NPA rebels disarmed first before the government can resume peace talks with them. And a visionary and statesman, the DFA mourns the passing of its former chief, Roberto Romulo. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns. An anti-communist insurgency group wants members of the New People's Army to be disarmed before engaging in peace talks with the government. The Liga Independencia Pilipinas or LIPI reacted to the stand of some presidential candidates to pursue peace negotiations with the Communist Party of the Philippines, its armed wing NPA, and political arm National Democratic Front. LIPI National Chair Jose Antonio Goita reiterated that the government has resolved as a matter of state policy not to conduct talks with terrorist groups such as the CPP, NPA, NDF. Goita said the CPP, NPA, NDF should renounce all its terroristic activities and stop future plans before talks could even proceed. He said they should also accept conditions of demobilizations and disarmament. Goita noted that the CPP, NPA, NDF has used the cessation of hostilities to strengthen its fronts and recruit more members while pursuing its attacks on the countryside. He said they hope that presidential bets would discern the terror plot being hatched by the CPP, NPA, NDF using the country's democratic space. The Presidential Task Force on Media Security, or PT-FOMS, has sent over 100 copies of its handbook on personal security measures for media practitioners to the Philippine National Police Media Security Vanguards. These handbooks will be dispatched and coursed through the PNP Public Information Office and sent to PIOs nationwide. The handbook discusses the Philippine Journalist Code of Ethics and the PT-FOMS protocols, as well as personal security measures. PT-FOMS Executive Director Undersecretary Joel C. Egco said they are confident that the handbook will help the media security vanguard to be better equipped to handle incidents involving media workers. UNESCO hailed the launch of the PT-FOMS handbook in 2018 for showing best practices against media threats and violence. An updated edition was released in 2020. The Commission on Appointments, or CA, approved on Wednesday the appointment of Mario Lipana as a Commissioner of the Commission on Audit, or COA. Lipana, who has been with the state audit body for nearly 4 decades, got endorsements from a number of lawmakers who attested to his competence and qualifications. Lipana vowed to implement effective and innovative solutions to the challenges of the pandemic to the COA. He will serve as COA Commissioner until February 2, 2027, replacing Jose Fabia, whose term ended in February 2020. During the committee hearing, Senators Franklin Drilon and Panfilo Lacson urged Lipana to commit to the turnover of records in connection with the contracts entered by the government with formerly Pharmaceutical Corporation. For his part, COA Chair Michael Aguinaldo assured that they are holding a targeted review of transactions being probed by the Senate and said it is undergoing a quality assurance process. Colonel Jean Fajardo is the new official spokesperson of the Philippine National Police. PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos announced the appointment of Fajardo to members of the PNP Press Corps on Wednesday. Fajardo, a member of the PNP Academy Class of 1996, was previously Deputy Director for Operations of the PNP Drug Enforcement Group, Director of the Pampanga Provincial Police, and Chief of the Public Information Office, or PIO, of the Police Regional Office, Central Luzon. Fajardo is replacing newly promoted Brigadier General Roderick Augustus Alba, who will act as full-time Chief of the PNP PIO. Alba is also the PNP's head coordinator with the Presidential Task Force on Media Security and executive producer of PNP's public affairs programs. Alba is a member of the PNPA Class of 1992. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, pays tribute to the family of its former secretary, Roberto Romulo, who passed away last January 23. The DFA remembered Romulo as a visionary and an accomplished diplomat who had Philippine interests at heart. It also hailed Romulo as the father of institutional economic diplomacy, directly supervising the DFA's economic diplomacy unit during his term. In a separate tribute, Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat, his niece, said he had led an exemplary and full life in both the private and public sectors. Romulo joined government service in June 1989 when he was appointed ambassador to Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Commission of the European Communities. He became the country's top diplomat in 1992. Romulo was also the chairman of several private companies and non-profit foundations. He passed away at 83 years of age. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Recovery in full blast, the country's economy expands by 7.7% in the fourth quarter of 2021, even as it continues to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Vaccination intensified, the Philippines gets its latest shipment of over 1 million Pfizer COVID-19 jabs as it doubles down on ramping up inoculation both for the unvaccinated and those who have yet to get booster doses. The election fever heats up as the Commission on Elections will conduct presidential and vice presidential debates starting February. And drop your arms first, a group wants the communist rebels to be disarmed first as condition for the resumption of peace talks. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.